What's up, y'all? I bet there's no one here watching yet in the present tense because I had to switch streams and didn't prepare this one in advance, but it started raining outside. But I'll start chatting for any future viewers as well, because any future viewers who watch through these streams, I appreciate it much as well, and I'm sure you'll learn some random nuggets of wisdom and joy. Now, first, while I wait to see if any more combo lords assemble here, I'm going to go grab and reposition that lamp a little bit and get our lighting a little more well lit in the front. And hello again to the first two of you. All right, now we got an extra lit front zone. Now, you'd say, why don't I turn on the light on top? Now, when I'm outside, I have a better excuse that a light doesn't exist out there. And here, my excuse is that the bulb is dead up there. So we're using a smaller lamp right there. And I think it's sturdy enough on the bed where it is right now. So glad that a few of you stuck around from the last stream or stumbled in anywhere. And here is my room. Anyone want to guess what color these walls would be called? Whether they heard me mention it in a previous stream or whether they got any guesses what you might call this shade? And the clocks, I do actually have a few clocks in my room. The one on that side I've had in here a bit because it started getting too worn in the rain, and my grandfather built it with a kit, and I was like, that's a memento to me. I'll try and keep that one safer than the combo class sometimes does things to clocks. And then these ones I just brought in a day or two ago because it was starting to rain outside a bit, and I didn't want these more papery ones, which that one is like a really thick cardboardish thing, kind of. It's hard to explain, but it feels like it could get ruined in the rain. And that one that one had a glass cover that shattered in the modular multiplication madness episode. Um, and So that one now is paper under the what used to be glass covering. So that one I thought would ruin in the rain pretty quick, and I like it because it's one of my larger clocks. So I'm not going to start leaving that out into the rain until that's like my 10th biggest clock. And right now that's like my first or second biggest clock. Green is a vaguely correct answer for the walls, and turtle shell is a good guess. Now I'm going to give you another clue based on that. The reason it's such a good guess is it is named after an animal. So, what other animal might be called something green? And it's just one animal name. It doesn't have something like shell after it. Now, if no one answers, I'll do it in a minute. Because chameleon, okay, chameleon's even closer. Gecko is equally, maybe even closer. Tortoise is further. Iguana, okay, we got a few more tries only. It's not iguana either. Lizard, we got it. Toasty UG got it. Um, And yes, this was called Lizard Green. And going into the paint store, I already knew I wanted some shade of green because I like nature a lot, and green has become my favorite color because of that. Apart from, there's a lot to be said for a pure black. That's a pretty powerful color. But green is pretty awesome. So, uh, some of my favorite colors, I mean, colors are very powerful, so it's hard to pick a favorite. But colors stand for things, and green to me stands for nature. And so I like nature, so I decided to go for green. And when I saw lizard green was one of the shades, I was like, all right, I'm going for that one. That sounds good. Lizard green. I realized after the fact it could help if I need to do like green screen shots. Now it's kind of bumpy, so it might be hard to light well enough to make work well as a green screen, but I feel like if I lit it well enough, it would do the trick. In fact, a kind of poorly done green screen might work well enough. Might accidentally fit the aesthetic. Um, All right, lots of good animals we've been talking about in there. Um, I feel like I had something related to a lizard here. Yeah, here it is. Um, so now that we're talking about lizard green, why don't we look at probably a lizard? It's kind of hard to know the difference between them. Oh, here's an actual more fun thing that's lizard related. Not actually lizard related. Now, a lot of people have misconceptions about those little animals that are lizard shaped. The ones that are lizard shaped but not lizard textured are sometimes like newts and geckos and stuff, and those are different than lizards. And newts in particular are actually amphibians as opposed to reptiles. And they're the one I'm going to show you something related to in a sec. And they have these little bodies. I'll find photos of me with them sometime because they show up in this place near where I live called Tilden Park, above in the hills above Berkeley, where there's like a foresty area. And I love nature and hiking and stuff, even though I haven't been able to do it this year because of my surgeries, but soon. And so up there, there's a bunch of newts at certain seasons. And when you go at the right time to a riverbed, you can see these little guys, and they're like, some can be up to like that big or that big, and they're kind of like brownish orange, and they also can be a little like purplish on parts of them, and they're slimy looking because they're amphibians, and you don't want to touch them unless they jump on you. They might be chill, but like don't touch them because they're really fragile. You'll probably hurt them because amphibians have like a different type of skin. They don't want our dry skin touching it. But they're really cool to observe. You can look at them if you find them in nature and hang out and chill with them for a bit. Um, and so here's what I want to show you. I got to unpin this from my other wall over here. I like to keep on my wall a map of this place called Tilden Park that I mentioned because this is a great place to go hiking if you live around where I live. There are essentially two options for where I want to go to nature. I got even closer than this park, the marina. If I go across the train tracks, like about 5 or 10 blocks from me, you get to this zone where uh, you start hitting like ocean, or not ocean wildlife, but like bay wildlife, like by the estuary with these little parks and stuff. And so there's a lot of cool areas around there, but the true dense like hiking zones with forests and stuff begin with Tilden and get even better as you go down to Redwood Park, and even better as you go down to Big Sur and Big Basin and other parts of California. But Tilden Park has a lot of magnificent secrets in it, and there are so many different trails. It's a decently big area. Park is a little misleading. I would have called it Tilden Forest probably. Um, so here's a map of the big old park. And for context, this is they put on the back of the map. Um, Let me try and get that to focus. Like part of a city, and here's the marina area I was talking about, are these little green patches. Not, and there's other non-green ones because this is just labeling ones in what's called the East Bay Regional Park System. Um, but these little green guys, and then you get up here, Tilden Park is taking up a big chunk of space up there. And here's the up close map of it, and the scale is, that's half a mile right there. So that bit, the full thing right there is half a mile. Let me try and get this to focus a bit at a time so you guys can go on the journey. So that's whole thing is half a mile. The little mark is a quarter, half mile. So there's a lot of different entrances you can try and approach this from. And What I wanted to show you though is, although there's a lot of beautiful places, and some of the places I want to take you to include a lot of the little rivers and the lakes and a lot of the cool little foresty zones in here that I'll take you and some whiteboards to someday. Um, what I wanted to show you is that they have a couple notices on here of important things you need to know about the park. And this is my favorite notice. One of the roads in the back is called South Park Drive. As far as I know, it wasn't named after the show South Park. As far as I know, it's because it's in the south of the park. But one of the roads in the south of the park is called South Park Drive. And my favorite little notice is South Park Drive is closed November 1st through March 31st to protect migrating newts. So they closed this big road in the back of the park, and it actually makes the hiking a lot better there because less people go there. So you can go, and it's practically just you and the newts. And when there is the newt migration, they cross and go up these rivers and across different places and across the road at some points is why they close it due to cars or close it from the cars. But if you hike up there, you're still allowed to hike on the road closed part and just make sure you don't step on any newts. If you go at the right season, you'll see some by the rivers and stuff, and they're pretty awesome. So sounds like that's coming up. Wait, sounds like that's now. Oh my God, it is between November 1st and March 31st. I'm not positive they still have that rule. This is a map from like 5 years ago or something, but they probably do. Um, that means if I can take a trip up to Tilden Park soon to film some cool videos, there's a chance that we'll catch some migrating newts. Um, Although the hard part about that is I don't know how far I can hike right now because I just got these surgeries not that long ago and I'm still recovering a little bit. And so I don't know if I can go deep into the part where the road's closed to cars, but I'll probably be able to do it anyway because I love hiking. Um, and because I want to see some migrating newts. There's also a lot of cool wildlife up there. I used to bike up to Tilden Park, even though it's super steep uphill when I was in really good shape when I was like 10 years ago or something. I would bike up this massive hill and then go hiking and bike back down the easier way. And it gets really foggy at certain times up near Tilden Park. And I remember one time I was biking up and it was hyper foggy. And then, like 10 feet from me, I saw a deer that I didn't see until I was like 10 feet from it because of the fog. And like, whoa. Um, and then it ran off. But there's a bunch of deer up there. And if you own property, they might eat your crops and you might not be friends with them. But the deer don't go all the way down to my property. So the deer are my friends. They're pretty cool. And as usual, if you see any wild animals, don't bug them. You know, you can hang out with them, but if they're trying to back off, let them back off. You want to go to nature to as an observer, not as a disturber, and you want to be chill along with all the plants and animals. So make sure not to, crush anything or scare anyone too much. Um, let's see. Who's the most important mathematician ever? Now, I've answered this question a bit before, but since I said I probably was going to write Euler's formula, oh man, I'm falling into the trap. There's too many things named Euler's formula. Euler's identity. That's the better nickname subdivision of all the Euler formulas for the one I'm talking about. So I would say Euler was the greatest mathematician ever. Euler, although it's pronounced a little weird for the culture you may be used to. But Euler was unbelievably brilliant and invented too much stuff for me to list it all right now. So maybe I'll just write one on the wall. And this is the one I was kind of explaining before. Of if you got And yes, this is a permanent marker. So I'm only going to hopefully write stuff during the stream that I don't regret, hopefully. Um, E, I don't even know if you can see this sector of the wall is easy. To the I pi. Now, Often this is written that equals negative. Wait, you can't even see that stretch of the wall, can you? Often this is written that um, this equals -1. However, I like when equations equal 0. That makes them neat and easy to compare to each other. So we're going to write it as +1 equals 0. All right. I'm extra slow today because this is Sharpie on my wall. Now, I'm only going to put things that I think will be important to remind myself and to remember the beauty of. However, based on where the stream will probably be facing if I keep streaming in my room like this and how my desk currently is, my desk is diagonal, you might notice. This is forward on my desk, but it's pointing at the corner of my room because it's a pretty small room. And the only way that I was able to fit in a bed, room for the closet door to open, a bookshelf, a desk, and a dresser for clothes. The only way I could just fit those things in the room was by like arranging these puzzle pieces on a piece of paper. And one of my friends somehow put them together in this puzzle piece shape where it worked really well and they actually fit. Because I was almost going to sacrifice having the closet door open or something. But it fit because I put my bookshelf behind the desk. I'll show you that angle some other time. Behind the desk in the corner, and then the desk is like diagonal in front of the bookshelf. So we're facing diagonally right now. But since that's the case, if this is where I'm usually going to stream, maybe the equations should go more in that corner, right by the window. But then again, I should also save a patch of the wall for green screen. But I have enough of the wall over there I could save for green screen if I need. Even though that's not why I got the wall, and I don't even know if it'll work because it's a. But I don't know. It might. I'll save a little bit just in case. Now, someone's saying e to the power of pi times I. I'm not sure if that they're referring to the same one I wrote or if they mean that they would put the order different. Like I wrote I pi instead of pi I. Yeah, pi I probably would be more technical, I guess. For some reason, what I was thinking is that, well, let's see. When I'm looking it up right now, most places are writing it as I pi, is I guess why I'm used to that. Maybe the reason that's done a lot, even though you often say things like this number I instead of I3 or something. Maybe that's because when you spell out pi, it's pi. And so if you ever write it spelled out in a computer or something without the little times, that it's like PII or IPI might be easier to understand. I don't know. A lot of the ones when I looked it up do put it this way. So I guess that's why it's stuck in my brain. But that is a good thought. Why isn't it I there, if that's what you meant? Someone's saying the golden ratio for decoration. I could write a really long irrational number like all across like the window frame or something. Maybe I can, if I use the whole window frame, do you think I can write the whole ratio decimal? No. How about the whole golden ratio continued fraction using continued fraction notation? Yup, because continued fractions can do cooler things than decimals can do sometimes. And check out my episode about infinite fractions on the main channel if you don't know what I mean. Those are things that I may write here is a few ways of writing the golden ratio, which would include the continued fraction. However, the golden ratio has so many ways of writing it that I'm kind of torn between which one to start, like which identity to start with. That it squared is itself plus one, that it is its reciprocal plus one, that it is, which you could derive those from the fact that it's the root of a certain polynomial, x squared equals x plus one. Or you'd phrase that often as polynomial form x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0. So I guess Yeah, and then that polynomial has two answers. So hard to say which one I'll end up needing to put, but maybe now I'll put the classic, my few favorite continued fractions. Well, okay, we're going to actually save the golden ratio. I'll put that on soon, but since it made me think of this, because my way of expressing the golden ratio is as a fraction made of infinite ones, we're going to do root 2. Because I think that root 2 is kind of dumb that we always think of it as 1.4 something. Instead of at least sometimes thinking of it as 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 stacked in the right way infinitely many times, which exactly equals the square root of 2. And you could come up with notations to write that in a finite way. Like you can just make a little bar and write 1 is my start, and then I have 2's in all the denominators. And I've described an irrational number in a finite expression. And so, since that notation is a bit vague, let's write out the fraction. So I'm going to do root 2 for now. Uh-oh. What have I done? Okay. I guess it is on a bed. I don't know what I'm expecting. All right, we're getting square root of 2. And you know what it equals? 1 plus, this wall is bumpy, so sometimes I got to double draw the lines. 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 plus dot, dot, dot. We continue that pattern forever, and we've gotten the square root of 2. I guess you couldn't even see that necessarily. Okay, yeah, it's kind of hard to see from afar here, but trust me, when you're closer to that wall, you can see a bunch of little 2's going down. I should write the cubic or quartic formula because the quadratic's overrated. Quadratic formula is overrated. It's a good formula, but it is still what I would call overrated because of how hyped up it's made by certain teachers and schools. Now, the cubic and quartic aren't I guess you could call them more underrated in comparison, but they're still not necessarily the most commonly encounter. Well, no, you encounter them a lot. They are really useful. Yeah, so those might have to go up at some point, but I'll probably write the whole batch of those at some point because the quartic formula, for anyone who's seen it, is going to take up a lot of wall space. Even the cubic formula is pretty absurd, but the quartic formula is going to take up like a wall practically. So, let's see. Someone's asking what country am I from? If they meant me, I am from America in California and in the Bay Area of California near the newt migrations. The clocks, for the commenter who asked that, you should just see the video on my main channel that looks like it's about clocks. That should explain some of the current story. And yeah, physics formulas are pretty cool too, but I'm a little into the pure math ones, so physics ones will probably get some good places on the wall due to their fundamentalness, but I don't know, some of the pure math ones I find are pretty beautiful, and they're not going to need any upgrading unless we really got things wrong in our system. So the harmonic series, yeah, that's a good one. I have to think about how I want to write that, and I'll probably wait until I have. Thank you for all the suggestions, and I will revisit them later and keep making them. But I'll probably wait for the harmonic series until I make a video about that. and there's multiple videos the harmonic series will show up in. But there are two in particular, and one is about, in general, which infinite series, particular series of reciprocals, diverge toward infinity, and which ones converge toward a finite number. And some people get confused when you're like, how could you have an infinite thing go to a finite number? But like if you have half plus a fourth plus an eighth plus a 16th and so on, that just adds up to 1, even as the limit you approach, even with infinite terms. But the harmonic series does diverge. So do other cool ones that I want to make a whole video about. And then there's a topic that people have mentioned that I definitely want to make a video about that has to involve the harmonic series, because this is secretly what the harmonic series could be said to be part of, is the Riemann zeta function and the Riemann hypothesis. One of the greatest questions in math that you'll actually get $1 million if you answer. But that's not, whoever solves it isn't going to be after the $1 million. They're going to be really into numbers, because this is a problem that has had a lot of work put into it. But it's very interesting, and that will have a video of its own. So after we meet more about the harmonic series in a general reciprocals video about infinite series, we will definitely re-meet the harmonic series in the context of it being the value at 1 of the Riemann zeta function, and it being sort of like a wall between the parts of the function that can exist and the parts that you can only make exist with this form of analytic continuation. So it's this weird, not only part of the function, but like a very important wall on the function. It's like a line that glitches things. And I say a line because although it's on the function, it's just the value at 1. The line that glitches things includes 1 plus I, 1 plus 2I, minus I, 1 minus 2I, and stuff are all on the line that glitches things out. But if you just go to the point that doesn't involve any imaginary numbers, that's basically the harmonic series. I'm glad for the comment who appreciates that I am passionate about math without being a channel that just tutors them. And yeah, tutoring can be more boring than trying to share all of the fun stuff I find beautiful about numbers and stuff, and teach things by trying to lead you down similar paths of learning I enjoyed going down myself, through books and problem solving and investigating numbers and stuff. And yeah, I actually only I have some private students in both music and math, but that's just like a day job for me right now. Mostly my videos are more like closer to my desired end goal of what I want to do with my time, which I wouldn't really describe as tutoring, although maybe I'll make series at some point of like side channel videos or something to tutor particular concepts. I am genuinely into numbers, so the most fun videos are going to be the ones where I just share something that I found really interesting and hope that some of you find it really interesting too. And given that I'm a human and you're humans, sometimes that works, that when I found it interesting, you do too. Someone saying work equals progress times time is, wait, or is that a minus or a what? Yeah, equations like that, hard to say if you could actually make a universal equation to fully describe human emotions, because I don't think that equation is necessarily fundamentally true itself. But it's all those things have good applications. I think it's fun to come up with them as long as you don't take them to be a law of the universe. So I think a law of the universe would be much longer of an equation to describe human emotions. But I do think that coming up with little equations like that as less of a mathematical thing and more of using a math language to play with philosophy is awesome. Fibonacci, yeah, the Fibonacci series is pretty good. That's a good thought, to just put some integer sequences, because while those aren't equations Integer sequences are great. So putting integer sequences could definitely come into play. Let me see how many of the Fibonacci's I could name real quick if I was in court. I would have, you got 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and yeah, there I'm lost. 34, I guess. Yeah, then I'd have to start calculating them. Those are classic numbers, but here's the thing about the Fibonacci numbers. It's a little arbitrary that you start with either 1, 1 or 0, 1 to get that. I actually like the ones where they start the seed of it at 0, 1. Feels a little more intuitive, but that's a little arbitrary, and you don't need that to have the coolest trait of the Fibonacci series. Now, the Fibonacci sequence, and I should say sequence, not series, because series more commonly in math is saved for when you add the sequence. But the terms get interchanged a bit too. But in sequences like that, the most interesting thing about the Fibonacci sequence is the Fibonacci type sequences, ones where you take any two seed numbers and add the last two to get the next always. They always converge to the ratio of terms being a golden ratio amount of times bigger than the last. They get closer and closer to that until they get converged to it as a limit. So that doesn't need 1, 1 or 0, 1 to start your chain to make a Fibonacci-esque sequence do that. You can plug in like, let's try a random one. Let's do it for fun. Why don't two of you, there's not that many left in the comments, but if two of the people here comment a random number and first comment integer, then comment like a not that hard fraction or like a mixed number. 74, and what's like a mixed number? And 5. Let's say 5.5 to just have fun with it. 5 and a fifth. So, or 5, I'm going to go with 5.5, but that looks kind of 50. So anyways, so 5.5. We put them in a weird order anyway. I put the 74 first. I was the smaller first, but this should work too. So now we're going to add them. I'm going to pull up a calculator here to help out. So we're going to go 74 plus 5.5. And what we get is 79.5. That one I could have done without needing the calculator, but now I have it ready to add on my next term, which now I can go plus 5.5 on that because that's the one I want to add again. That gives me 85. We're going to add the last one. So to my answer there, I'm going to go plus 79.5. And that's going to give me 164.5. And we're going to go a few more steps. 164.5 plus 85 now. And that's going to give us 249.5. And last step, we're going to add 249.5 and 164.5. We'll see if that works to be the last step, if that's big enough. And 164.5. Oops. And that gives us 414. So now let's see what happens when I divide the latest term by the second latest. 414 over 249.5. And that gives me 1.659-ish. I don't have the about equals, so I'm saying is about. So if we had kept it up some more terms, we would have gotten closer and closer to 1.618 and etc. The golden ratio. There's a lot of cool ways to get to the golden ratio with series like that. But that reason why that one already was relatively close, even with such absurdly weird numbers, like it would get there a lot closer if my numbers had started close to each other in size. There's even with a weird difference between the numbers. Then that's why the Fibonacci sequence, while is being cool, the general thing I would almost want to write is the recursive formula for given two seed numbers, generate a sequence where each new term after the first two is the sum of the previous two. Yeah, isn't that fun? You can get some real-time mathematical investigations. That's what I do on my free time a lot. If I'm curious about something, I will just like start writing down, taking notes about a random sequence or whatever. Now, if you ever are investigating a sequence and you think that there might be something interesting there, and it's something not super obscure, so theoretically could have been discovered in history, which shouldn't be discouraging. It's awesome to discover other things yourself, even if they've already been discovered. And when you find out that they've already been discovered, it's kind of helpful, even though sometimes could feel discouraging that something has been discovered already. It's helpful because then you can get shortcuts to what is already known as a whole human species about them or not. And what open questions there still are. And by getting there, you'll have learned a lot. And so if you ever have a sequence you're investigating of numbers, what you can type it into to figure out if it's being investigated and have a good chance of finding whether or not it is the OEIS.org, the Online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences. As a weird math geek, that is one of my favorite websites of all time. Like, for example, if I type in the first few of the Fibonacci sequence, let's try something weird. What if we try a Fibonacci variation that's so close to Fibonacci it might have been like written in the catalog? What if I try, I can't start with 1, 3 because that is something called the Lucas sequence, kind of. But let's go with 1, 4 and Fibonacci it and see if that got in the sequence somehow. I'm typing in 1, 4, 5, 9, 14. This one I'm trying to do by head. Then you got 23, and then you got 37, and then you got 60, and then you got 97, and we'll stop there. Now, first, let's play our game. What's 97 over 60? That'll tell us what our ratio has gotten to. 1.61 repeating sixes. That is close to the golden ratio already. So now let's see if they, for some reason, have it. Yes, they do have this in the OEIS. They label it as A000285. And describe this sequence is A of 0 is 1, A of 1 is 4, and A of n, for n greater than or equal to 2, is A of n minus 1 plus A of n minus 2. And the minus 2s and minus 1s are in parentheses, meaning it's the A we're talking about, getting the A minus 1 being like, or no, it's the n minus getting minus, like A of n minus 1 means the n minus 1th term. So basically that's telling us we did a Fibonacci rule and our seeds were 1 and 4. So there are some notes about it that you can see with things like that. They have notes on what's called the Pisano period of this, which is basically if you put it, we'll see that in a Clock Quest episode because it has relationships to modular arithmetic. Then if there's other random notes on here. So if you ever have a sequence you're curious about, you can look here and then you find like, is it being researched? Does it have any notes on it? All right. So thank you to the Bangladesh fan and to all of the fans. So what's some other sequences we could try and look up now that I have this thing on my mind? Well, let's say I want to learn a fun fact about three-even numbers. Well, I could go on here and I could see 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Now, don't worry. I have definitely gone into the OEIS for the three-evens already. I have taken notes on what they have, but I haven't done it on stream yet. Now, the interesting thing is when I search 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, the first thing I get is not the three-evens. The first thing I get is the product of the decimal digits of each number in a row, which goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. Because that's when we're in the stretch of numbers in the 30s. 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 multiplied to 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So that's funny that the first one that comes up is not multiples of 3. It's the middle of the sequence, product of decimal digits of n. Next up, you get A008585, their catalog of A of n is 3 times n, which of course I would call 3 thens. Now, there's some interesting notes here of other ways of analyzing what that is. Apparently, and this is one I haven't done my own double checking on, because I just saw this the other day when I was researching this, but apparently these are the numbers, the multiples of 3 counting 0, are apparently the numbers for which the polynomial 27x to the 6th minus 2 to the power of n, so going up for like 1, 2, 3, or whatever, is factorable. I need to look into what they mean by that, but that's interesting if that's true. A lot of the stuff here, you can have a pretty good trust it's probably true, but you always still want to double check it. So yeah, there's other cool things here. Like these are integer areas you can have of what's called medial triangles of integer-sided triangles. So basically that's telling us that if you have an integer triangle and you look at this thing called a median, and that means a triangle where each side's an integer, and you look at what's called the medial triangle, then the area must be a multiple of 3. So there's a lot of cool ones in there. We have other phrasings of them, like for n greater than 0, number of edges in a maximal planar graph with n plus 2 vertices. Although that one, it's not shocking we get 3 when you say n plus 2 somewhere. And yeah, you get other lookalike sequences. That's going to be a whole video topic I'll do before long. Oh, someone's spamming the chat. Let me get that one out. One fun thing is if you look up a sequence then you might find lookalike sequences. And I'm going to save this for a whole video topic, maybe multiple video topics on lookalikes for different sequences. But I just want to give you one interesting example I was going through the other day, which is, so there's this classic lookalike sequence for the powers of 2, which is, I've made a short video about it, and many math channels have mentioned it in videos. And it's one where if you divide a circle by drawing dots on the outside of the circle and then connecting each dot you've made to all the other dots with a straight line, how many regions does it separate the circle into? And what's the maximum amount of regions you can make with a certain amount of dots? Well, with one dot, you just get the region of the circle itself, so 1. 2 dots, once you can connect them, you can get up to 2 regions. And then the next is 4, and then 8, and then 16, and then 31. And there are interesting reasons for why it's not 32, but it's similar. But we are no longer powers of 2, even though it looks like it might have been. Now, out of curiosity, I was like, what other lookalikes do you have to the powers of 2 sequence? So I looked on this thing called the OEIS. And next time I talk about this, I'll do the view where you guys can see my computer screen. Because since we're in my room anyway, next time I'll have you guys seeing this with me. But just to explain one example real quick. If you look at almost the powers of 2, and then I say, what if we had a 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 33? What if I go the other way? 1 higher than the next power of 2 instead of 1 lower. Are there any lookalike sequences to the powers of 2 that veer off at that point with a 33? Well, when I search it, the first one that comes up, it's in the middle of another sequence. I'm ideally looking for ones where this is the beginning of the sequence. And already right here, if I am allowed to skip a few ones, we have the generalized Catalan numbers. Different from the regular Catalan numbers. But there's many other examples of him here. They say, if you draw this type of line as peaks with no peaks and valleys, and this is the number of possible paths of a given length. And it turns out that when you map that question, or what's called the generalized Catalan numbers, or the equation they have from here, that you get 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 33, and then 69. So that's fun for the meme lovers out there. And so you also get down here. How about this? Number of oriented polyomino rings with length 4n with fourfold rotational symmetry. Happens to go 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 33. So that's going to be a topic at some point, is my favorite lookalike sequences that seem like they're another sequence and secretly aren't. And the resource that I will use possibly as a visual aid and at least as a reference in the video is this site called the OEIS that's pretty awesome. So also shout out to the guy Neil Sloan who invented that originally. Someone's asking how long a main channel video takes to make. So my goal is to put them out every 6 days, which I'm currently managing to do. They take a long time to research and plan how I'm going to deliver them and how I'm going to say what. But that time is hard to quantify because when I learn stuff, I'm learning stuff my whole life. So I kind of can't tally up the research time. As far as the filming time, that's for a main channel episode, probably around 4 hours or like 2 to 5 hours or 6 hours or something, depending on the episode. So some take a few days of a 2 or 3 hour shoot. Some I get done in one day of a 2 or 3 hour shoot. But it's going to vary over time as I'm more experimental with what I feel proud putting out on there, with what can work well. So some may take longer to shoot in the future, but typically I can get it done in 3 or 4 hours of filming. And then the editing's a whole nother story. My goal isn't to keep editing a ton of them myself. I'm editing a lot of them this part of the season, but that's mostly just to make sure I can get them out on quickly and cheap and basically free because I'm editing them. Because I pay other editors and I have like no budget for the show. Basically, I've made no money from the show yet. So if anyone ever wants to contribute, feel free to email me. But I am talking with other fans who might be able to help me edit. If any other fans want to talk about that too, you can reach out. But I've already talked to at least one fan who I want to think about incorporating into editing. But I have a bunch of friends who I pay much cheaper amounts to help me edit when they can. But when they're not available, I often have been editing them myself. And so the editing takes a lot longer, maybe like 8 or 10 hours to edit an episode, counting the soundtracking and everything. But that's also very hard to quantify and varies based on the episode. So, hopefully as I make the videos better and better, my answer of how long it takes to make the video, including the research time, as I start catching up to the topics that I've already planned, will be, well, I'm getting an episode out every 6 days, and I spend like half my time making the main channel episodes. Not right now yet, but once I can make it more of a full job. So eventually it'll maybe be like, well, half of the time in 6 days is how much time it took, because putting a lot of time in things can be good. I like putting effort into projects that I care about. And then the shorts are a lot quicker. The shorts probably, apart from the research, which I can't quantify either, those take maybe 10 minutes to film and maybe 10 minutes to set up the whiteboards before, and then maybe 10 minutes to tag and put on TikTok and another 10 minutes to tag and put on YouTube. So the shorts are a lot quicker, but that once again doesn't count the time where I learned these things or even where I wrote down the way I wanted to describe the things, because that's kind of just what I spend my free time doing, and it all kind of adds up. I have numerous computer documents and written notebooks full of pages upon pages of cool ideas for the future. And so it's hard to know how much time's been put into each individual idea. But I've spent a lot of my time on it this past 6 months, partially because I'm trapped at home a lot, partially because I love doing it, and partially because I haven't fully assembled a team to help me with all the editing and filming and stuff. So once I've assembled more of a team, I'll be able to like socialize and exercise better while making all the videos. But somehow I'm making it work, and it takes a lot of time. So you wouldn't be doing what I'm doing with the quantity I'm doing if you didn't really enjoy it. So someone's asking if I have a Discord server, and there is a combo class one. So let me put the link in here. Actually, I think I put it in the description of my last stream. So let me know if you can't find it there, but look in the description of my last stream. And also, I think I put it in the description of the other video on this channel I put out today, maybe, because I just started linking it. But it's something that some of my fans made not too long ago, and also made me able to moderate and stuff. And so definitely head over there if you use that app and chat there, and I'll probably chat back with most of all of your chattings. Because even though I don't use much technology, I've grown to like pulling up Discord just for the combo class page to see what's happening on there with my combo lords. And yeah, I might put it in the about section too. I was thinking about that. I'll probably edit that in at some point. I'm thinking about more things I'm going to expand on there in general too, because there's going to be a website at some point, comboclass.org, which I do own the domain name, but it's not anything up yet. And so there will be a whole website to go to at some point too. Whenever you don't have a new video to watch, you can see cool writing there and maybe cool games or interfaces and stuff. And also just links between which videos relate to which other videos in a more cohesive way. And also, at some point, people have asked about a Patreon. I'll probably make one of those at some point. Once I can actually offer fun rewards for you guys. But if anyone wants to support the channel in the meantime, they can always email me and I won't complain. So, yeah, Avogadro's number can be a pretty notable one in physics. It's related to a mole, and it's how many watts are in a mole? I'm looking it up right now. How many? So there are proportionality factors, which how many of any given thing is in a substance. So you can have different Avogadro constants. But in terms of moles, it is 6.02 and a bunch times 10 to the 23rd. So I guess it's not necessarily in terms of moles. It's just usually defined as such. But I guess here it's saying, and I need to look more into this because I know a lot more about math and science. I'm a lot more rusty on my physics and chemistry and stuff, but I do find it very interesting. So once I'm less rusty and I've restudied some of these topics, I will make videos about them too. But here, just from what I looked up, it says that the Avogadro number is the approximate amount of nucleons, which are protons or neutrons, in 1 gram of ordinary matter. So that is interesting, but a lot of this does base on like matter on our system of representing stuff. So it's a little bit lost in translation if we tried to show an alien or Avogadro constant number. Possibly. They might be able to translate it by having their own gram or whatever. But in any case, may put that on there. Anyway, and a mole is an amount of stuff, but we'll go into the weird unit measurement in the video at some point. The system of units is pretty funny. However, all the different systems of units. Now, like the metric system, despite it being logical to move dots as your next number, like milli, killa, and stuff being multiples of hundreds, hundredths, stuff like that. it's still a base 10 type of moving the decimal. So the metric system actually is like, it's not, you can't make 3-even numbers good. You can't divide in 3 easy. So the metric system wants to be good. It's a good idea. But when you're in the base 10 system, the metric system is not actually that good. People get like really hyped up about how the American system is inherently terrible and the metric system is inherently good. And don't get me wrong, the metric system is way better. I really wish that where I was from only used the metric system instead of it being a weird mix that often uses inches and feet and stuff where I'm from. That's dumb. Metric system is better. But if we were to count in base 12 or 6, there would be a more 3-even structure to the metric system, which is what the other system does try and fit in, like 12 inches in a foot and stuff, 3 feet in a yard. So there are ways in which the other system has more of like a divisibility to it because the metric system is so base 10-y. But of course, the ideal would be to have a metric-like system in a better base of counting. So that'll be a topic of a video at some point, how the metric system is kind of overrated, but it's not because of the concept of it. It's because it is the concept of it is very reliant on how good your base is. And our base isn't currently very good. And like I mentioned in the last part of the stream, the next main channel episode is going to be about negative numerical bases. And that's going to be a whole wild roller coaster for those of you who haven't thought about that. All right. Thank you to everyone else has been chatting in here. I'm not sure if I missed many of these comments, but in any case, I'm not going to get to all of them at all points always. Today is just a slightly different hangout in the room wrap up double stream. So I hope y'all appreciate the double stream. And I will keep going a little longer, but it's not going to be absurdly longer. My voice is getting a little worn out from, I just got over COVID and I'm feeling mostly better. I'm testing negative now, but I still feel a little off. And I think it's like getting better each day. But when I talk for 2 hours in a row, it makes my voice a little strained. So I'm not going to hang here forever. But it's very fun chatting with you all. I'm going to be streaming a lot of days and making a lot of videos. And before I go, I will show you guys a few more fun things from my room. Let me also just take a sip of a drink to clear my throat. And before I sip from a can, let me remind people that although it may look like beer, this is sparkling water. Because actually, although I don't care if my friends drink alcohol responsibly, I haven't drank alcohol in more than a year. In fact, more than 4/3 of a year. Is that true? Yeah, more than 4/3 of a year. So I'll tell you more about that whole roller coaster of a story of why that's the case in the future. But for now, sparkling water is all good. So, someone will switch to a metric-like system if it's base 12. That's the one they'd take. Yeah, a lot of systems have their pros and cons, but a base 12 or base 6 metric would be pretty dope. That would not only let you just hop the zeros over for different sizes, but instead of being able to easily divide by multiples of 2 and multiples of 5, you'd be able to easily divide by multiples of 2, 3, 4, or 6, and all of the other combos of those. So, sounds a lot more efficient, huh? And I guess to be fair, we'll say that the base 10 system is decent at dividing at 2, 4, or 5 up through that range, because I was including 4 on the other list too. But still, would you rather be able to divide out of the first 7 numbers easily by 2, 4, and 5, or 2, 3, 4, and 6? Pretty obvious choice, huh? And you get the better one of those with either base 6 or base 12. Now, although I am a proponent of base 6, I do think that it may take base 12 as a transitional state to add some digits before we subtract some digits. But once we subtract some digits, This is my true dream, is that someday in the distant future, someone will rewatch this stream and realize this was ahead of its time, because in that era, they will have reassigned the symbols that we use for 7, 8, and 9. They'll have gone, and even 6, they'll have gone to base 6, where 6 is the 10. They get to reassign them all. And that's good because 8 looks like a sideways infinity. Let's make it something infinity related. 7 looks too much like 1s and L's and stuff. 6 and 9 look too much like each other. Let's make them something that relates to each other. So, you know, sorry to say, guys, in the future we might kick out those symbols. And here's when it's going to happen, unfortunately. Humans are, I don't think, going to be smart enough to do it really soon. I think it's going to take a mild societal collapse. And then when we rebuild as semi-humans, as mutations of the human race after some apocalyptic event, we're going to need to be more efficient. And I'm not saying we're going to have a mutated amount of fingers, so we're going to count by that amount, although that maybe will be part of it too. That wasn't actually what I was trying to imply. I mean that if like all of our old paperwork was destroyed and it didn't help run current computer systems and we just had to start from scratch, I don't think we would necessarily go with the 10 fingers. I think we would see there's 3 joints right here. I think we would notice that 3s are useful. And I think we would go with base 6 or 12 or something. Or binary if we don't mind having a ton of digits. So part of measurement history, yep. We're actually definitely part of daylight savings history. That's not going to go on forever in every area. They keep switching that over history, and daylight savings has only been, as of the last barely over 100 years in America. So in other places, not much longer or even shorter, depending on the place. So places that do daylight savings, it's a new thing. And it started in war times, and it doesn't necessarily help farming, and there's nothing good about it. Although where I live, there are arguments towards switching to permanent daylight savings, for that being the time we stay on is the one that gives you like more daylight, arguably. But the changing from one to the other is just absolutely ridiculous. It's like we already have time zones. Those are already confusing enough. You're going to make not only are there time zones, but one of the days of the year has 23 hours and one of the days has 25 hours. Twice a year, actually. Wait, no. Yeah, no. One day of the year has 23 and one day has 25. What? So crazy. So let's see. I think I answered most of the comments I planned on getting to. Let me see if I have any more fun stuff in my room to share since we happen to be hanging out here. I don't know the next time that we'll be streaming here again. Now, there's a lot of corners to this tiny room that you won't see right now because we're just facing one direction. But with that said, let me give you a little peek of what we got going on here. We got my window where it's going to start raining soon. And since the rain gutters need to be cleaned, and the rain gutter has this problem like right outside my window, when it rains the wrong way too heavily, the rain gutter picks up and like accumulates this extra heavy pour down that like accumulates a bunch of the falling rain and makes it go down in one spot, so it falls faster and heavier than the rain is going, and it goes like a bullet or like a sheet of bullets, like, and it'll like ricochet off the windowsill so hard that if I don't watch out, I'm in the other room and I come back in and it's like doing this ricochet thing and bouncing, getting my whole bed wet. So I have to watch out for that, like not leaving the room when it's raining and the window's open if the rain gutter isn't super clean. I don't know why it does that. Probably because I haven't cleaned the rain gutter in a really long time. So I gotta watch out for that window. Then we got my clocks that are hanging out in here for a minute. We got a little bit of art. I used to draw art on my friend's wall of his apartment for fun because he had this apartment where he hung up all these things to draw on. So there's more on that wall too. And more random art I've hung up. You can see later. And over here, we got, what else cool do we have? I have this thing I call the trinket terrarium, but it's going to be kind of hard to move into frame. It's where I keep all my weird trinkets and stuff, but it's a terrarium. So I'm only temporarily storing them there, and maybe I'll move my trinkets somewhere else and turn it back to a terrarium someday. And I also have an aquarium, which isn't being used right now. And I mentioned a long time ago, I think on a stream, I'm not even sure if I mentioned this, that although I have an aquarium over there, I have held off on getting fish because, no disrespect to fish, they're very awesome animals, they're very beautiful to look at, but out of all the pets you can have, you got to admit they're a little boring. Now, like I said, they're awesome. If I had enough like mental stability to be able to just feed 50 different pets and that was totally fine and easy, then I would love having fish to look at. They're wonderful. Fish are great. In fact, someday I might try and have a fish tank that's somehow raccoon proofed in the combo classroom. If I don't raccoon proof it, somehow raccoons would eat those fish. Um, but with this one, I was like, I don't know if I want to put the effort into making sure I have a good, safe, healthy life for an animal if it's just going to be fish. I already have cats. I love taking care of my cats, but fish, I'm not going to get as many. I'm not going to be able to cuddle them. I'm not going to be able to rub their stomach. I'm not going to be able to do all kinds of stuff with the cats that I can do with the cats with the fish. So I was kind of holding off on like kind of bored of the fish idea. I've had fish as a kid, and once again, no disrespect to fish. If I ever, for some reason, like have a whole company running and I have someone hired to make sure my set is functional, maybe I'll hire them to feed fish and I'll get a ton of fish. But I don't want to be in charge of feeding fish right now, and I want to keep a pet safe if I have a pet. With that said, I found a pet that lives in a fish tank that I would be willing to put in the time investment to give it a happy life, because it would be something so much cooler to look at than fish. And it's aquatic frogs. And I saw them in a fish store when I was just going to a fish store for fun one time. And there's these little aquatic frogs, and they go up for air, but they only need to breathe every once in a while. So they hang out down in the water, and you just give them a little rock to hide in and hang out on. They just go up for air every once in a while. And they're these little tiny jumping, swimming frogs. And that made me realize maybe this fish tank will have a good use before long. So let's see. Um, Reveal the poop sock. Not sure what that's referencing. Must be some type of meme I'm not aware of. But I do probably have other cool things to show you in my room. Sometime I got all sorts of old rare notebooks with all my old mathematical and artistic scrawlings. But I don't think I have the right brain space tonight to take that type of trip down memory lane. I do have random books on my bookshelf. I can show you some cool books that I've been looking at recently. Some of them are here on the floor, and these are just an example of a few books that I'm going to jump into right now. That I've read just a tiny bit of them, and I haven't read too much of any of them. I got one called Fermat's Enigma about the great Fermat's last theorem and the long mathematical quest to solve it. I got one about symmetry, and the way that I believe this book will go into works with things in the field of group theory. Got one about primes from that same author. Got one about the fourth dimension. And reading is very good for the brain, so I always like to keep some extra paper books handy. And I buy them used online because it turns out I think it's worth it, even though you can find like a PDF of a book online. I think it's worth having a paper book for the experience with a book you really want to read all of. If you can find a used one for like under $10 or something, especially. So like I found all of those for like $7 counting shipping. You can get really cheap books online. And so what else do I got? There's like on my shelf here, I have more that are like long-term favorites. Like one of my long-term favorites right here is The Book of Numbers by Conway and Guy. And there's a lot of classics on this bookshelf here, as well as many of my own mysterious notebooks. And some more of those Goosebumps books that we read one of the other day. So maybe we'll do more of those someday. Now, I also did stumble into a giant box of photos, but I don't think I should just start flipping through a box of photos. I really don't remember what it contains. And there's genuinely parts of my, I want to someday reveal all of my life to you guys. Hopefully someday you'll know everything that's happened, but there's a lot I can't say yet for numerous reasons about various eras of my life for a variety of reasons. So let me just see if there's any photos that just from me flipping through first look extra handy. And I already found at least one I want to show you guys, which is, so people have asked, oh, you play music sometimes, surprised when they find out that like I made the soundtracks on most of the combo class videos, and like that I've done some music theory videos when they see that or stuff like that. And actually, yeah, I've been a music teacher for a while. Even before I had any math students, I had music students. And I've done a lot of various types of music over the years. And right now, I'm really into mostly making hip hop music, although I really enjoy other genres too. But I the first like creative music thing I did after taking like some lessons and stuff like that was making a rock band with two of my friends when we were in sixth grade. Kind of started when we were about 10 and mostly when we were about 11ish. And so when we were about like 10 to 12, we had this rock band. And here's a picture of us from the first show we played. And believe it or not, and this is one of the only shows we ever played. This was at my old elementary school, which we had graduated from, and we were at the middle school near there, but we played at one of their events. These are two of my really good friends. Da, 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 da. And that, wait, no, these are two of my really good friends, and that, believe it or not, is me with the really long hair. I used to have really long hair in middle school. It was like all the way down to my shoulders. And then there was a period where I told my friend he could buzz my hair, not like a full buzz cut, but just using that buzzy device with one of those things on it to like give me a short-ish haircut at a party. And you know what happens when you ask someone to give you a haircut at a party? Stuff might go wrong. So then he buzzed the spot and he was like, this wasn't when I had really long hair. This was years later. But then he was like, so either it's gonna all be really short or one spot's gonna be really short. And I was like, what? Okay, well, then all of it's gonna be really short as opposed to one spot being really short. So I've had ranging from like basically a buzz cut to really long hair. And the really long hair was in middle school when we played that show. Um, and let me just see if I have one or two more extra rare ones. And then for another stream, I'll actually compile some of the coolest ones that I am able to show. Now, there are some weird, strange, artistic ones here too. Some of my parents' friends made movies or were film photographers and stuff. So there's some like stills from like weird home movies I was in, and like some of they're available online, I believe. A lot of the movies I've acted in, technically, I have an IMDb page. I played a bully in one and a rapper in one. Those are at least the ones that are online somewhere. Although they might be hard to find the movie online. Maybe I'll see if maybe I'll get permission to put out the scenes in and from those movies on the YouTube channel someday. All right. So let's see if there's any more examples of rarities. Seeing some Easter egg hunts and old parties and stuff, but I'll really have to go through and calculate what I show you more. This is me when I was really young. There we go. Investigating something through some sort of kaleidoscope or something, maybe. What is that? Yeah, I have some sort of flashlight or kaleidoscope I'm investigating there. So, yeah, a lot of classics in there. I'm going to get too sidetracked and I need to do more fine tuning before I show you more. So I'll just show one last one and then we'll move back to the game of if there's anything else fun in my room to show you before the stream ends. There's a lot of rare childhood here. Wow. Okay, this one's pretty rare. This one's mysterious looking. This was me in my old house, which was a room on top of a renovated basement where my family used to live before my brother was born. And a really long hat in that photo. Looks kind of spooky if you can actually see it. It's probably for some costume I made or something. I don't know why I'm wearing sunglasses in all of these photos. um, so, yep. And got some photos of me and my friends and stuff. But yeah, I'll share those more. Maybe I shouldn't get too carried away here. Um, in any case, this will be fun sometime when I do go through and call out the extra fun rare ones because there's ones ranging from the old house I used to live in to what this yard used to look like to all sorts of rarities. But yeah, I'm getting too sidetracked. So these aren't even the best of the photos anyway. These are like the reject ones that there was some second copy of that were in a box. Um, but yep, that's good for now. And what else should I show you guys from my room? So now I got way too sidetracked. Now I'm having fun looking at these, but I can do that afterward. Um, this is trippy. This you guys remember those 3D glasses that were really popular when like 3D glasses used to be a notable thing. Uh, Here, I guess, was one of my parties where all of us were wearing 3D glasses. Oh, here's another photo of the band I was in. This is us looking pretty slick. That's me at the bottom. We actually recorded some stuff I'll show you sometime. I've been in many musical projects, some of which some of my fans have already found online, but you can't find them easily just by looking up Demotro or anything. So good luck. You can just wait until I give you guys all the links. There will come a time for everything. So that's all for the photos for right now. Maybe we'll do one or two more fun room props and then wrap it up for the night. It's been a lot of streaming today. We had our whole outdoor portion and our whole indoor portion. But like I put in the title, even though I haven't been talking about it, it's sort of like a celebration stream because we shot past 50,400, if we want the highly composite number, amount of subscribers. And yeah, 51,000 has passed too, but that's not highly composite. So we'll go with 50,400. Um, Whiteboards, of course. You need whiteboards indoors or outdoors. So believe you me, my room has whiteboards as well as outdoors does. Um, More musical things will come later from here too, because although I was the piano and keyboard player in that band as a kid, this is also a guitar. So I do play other instruments as well. Now, what's in this one? This was under the photos, and this one is cards I made as a kid. So this is, once again, I'll show you just a couple of these. This is just a funny glimpse into my past. But you know, like magic cards and Pokemon cards, before I ever even played those, and then even more so after I got into Magic, I like to design my own cards and I would make my own games. And at first, it was just like whoever pills the higher number wins or whatever. And then when I got older, I was like trying to make whole sets of rules and powers and all sorts of stuff. So in here, I have all sorts of different cards I made as a kid. Like this is one from when I was really young that we just see it's Bob and Joe was worth 150 points. And that was just a how high your number was based game. And then here we got, for example, a little later, we got this was obviously inspired by magic cards. This one is called Food for Thought, and it's an enchant, apparently. It costs 4 Congo food, and it says your green guys cost 2 Congo food less, and it says greebly, I don't know what that means, 1. So there's Food for Thought. And then there was all sorts of rules I had that a lot of them were inspired by me trying to make a game like Magic at that point, Magic the Gathering. But before there were many iterations. Here's one just called Mini Good Army that's worth 100 points. So I'll show a few more of these before. Once again, I'll put these away and then find the best ones for another day. And whoa, yeah, some of them have less effort than others. This one's just like Gugon 200. And then some of them are pretty elaborate. Some of them I found a way with like special art markers to make them holographic. And so I would like even make like a holographic version of a card. Here's one called Baby Frog with a bunch of abilities. But the abilities might be kind of hard to read. Not sure how powerful that card was supposed to be. And most of them are on the back of business cards. So like on the back of most of these is like some random business. And that was because my mom was a graphic designer, so she had all these test batches of business cards that weren't needed for companies and stuff. And so I would get those to draw stuff on. Ooh, this one's a maze. Anyone wants in the future, you can rewatch the stream, pause here, and try and see if the maze is solvable. Making mazes is fun. I used to be into that. Probably once again, like I said, I have weird hobbies I get carried away on like every other year. That one's been like 10 years, but maybe once every 10 years I get really obsessed with drawing mazes. So yeah, one or two more of these to show the different eras. It's really a big box. There's hundreds and hundreds of these. So like there's just handfuls upon handfuls of these cards. But I just want to find like one or two examples of different eras you got. This must have been, yeah, these are kind of hard to gauge if any of these were supposed to be from the same game as each other. They all seem to have different rules. Like this one says, opponent goes back 10, dog in the yard. That seems to be an entirely different game than the ones that are like what is opponent goes back 10? Was this on a board game? This one's weird. This one's called Joe's Patchwork. Draw a card. XX MIE. And then here's one. We got Firewolf. Was 90 points. It was one of the simpler ones. And one final example will be, let's see. This one is called Win It or Winot or something and has a lot of weird abilities. And those are a random example of what I used to do a lot of as a kid. Design card games and stuff like that. And while it was mostly an artistic endeavor, I'm sure it did teach me a little about game theory and stuff as well. You just watch. Someday I'm going to invent a better version of chess that requires less pieces than chess, but has not much less complexity for how many less pieces it'll have. So that's something I'll set my mind to someday. I mean, I've had fun with it, but that's something I'll really focus on someday or another. Here we got, I saw this being given away. I think it was at a yard sale. You know the game Boggle? Well, I think this one might be missing one thing. So they have like letters. This one's missing a letter. But so I forget the origin of this one, but wherever I got this Boggle that's missing a letter, I remember that I realized, what could I use cubes with letters for? Wait a minute. Why is this not considered a die? Why are these not dice? They are using a very common shape that dice has. They could be used to randomize things. So I'm going to put these in the classroom. They're dice. It's missing one anyway, so you can't play the whole game with it. So other 15 get to go in the dirt. And the reason I want them in the dirt is because when it rained before and people stepped on it after the rain, it buried the dice in the ground a bit. And so they're starting to carpet the ground a little bit after each rain. So I want them to be scattered as it continues to rain tomorrow, if it does, so that they get extra sunk into a dice carpet. Someone asked where I'm from, and I am from where I currently live, which is the Bay Area of California. And someone's mentioning games similar to chess, which sounds cool. Yeah, no, I don't play many games. I play chess with my friends sometimes, but they play online chess and I don't, so they usually beat me, but I can beat them sometimes. But I don't play games very much, video game or otherwise, although I actually like board games. I find them just a fun social activity with friends. But yeah, so I don't do that much research into them. I always am trying to get people to play games I invented. So when I look at chessboards, I like thinking like, okay, here's some nickels, here's some pennies, here's some dice. How can I make these into a game on the chessboard? And then I try and get people to test run them with me. Goodbye to whoever had to go. I think I'm going to go soon too, because I have not eaten too much this evening, and it's 8:15 p.m. here, so I should eat dinner. But I do love chatting with you guys, so maybe I'll try and find one last fun room thing. What else do I have lurking around this miniature but special room? Well, I have some things that I inherited from my grandpa. And by inherited, I basically mean he died a few years before my grandma. And then when she died last year, um, the house had to get sold to some new owner. And then so I had time to take whatever I wanted that no one else in the family needed from their house. And some of the things I decided to take were a clock right here that I'll show you in one sec, that my grandfather made most of using this kit. Although there's some missing parts and stuff, so it's never going to be complete, but it has most of what looks like a clock, even though it probably won't run. And then I took some of his like sporty gear, mostly for props and videos, but just in case I want to try and use them in any fashion. So I took some fishing poles and fishing gear. And like I said, I wouldn't fish just for the fun of it. I would only want to try and catch a fish if I could cook it and eat it after. But that is a goal someday, to try and catch a fish that I actually make good use out of and eat. But also having them as a prop or video tool for science experiments could be useful, having a fishing pole. And I also got some golf clubs. And I've been using those golf clubs throughout my surgeries because I needed a cane after each surgery for a while. And if I still go to a long enough party that I'm going to be walking around during the party, I bring a cane that's a golf club, because I have a technical cane, but it's a funnier conversation starter and works just as well when I bring a golf club. So I usually use that as my cane. So, and then that relates to these golf balls that I got. So, and tees. So I have some more somewhere else too. So once we have a good science experiment to test these with, we'll do some wild science with these things. Leave your suggestions if you have any suggestions of what science you want to see me do with these, or with a golf club or fishing pole in general. And then I inherited some other useful things and some mementos. But those are the ones that you guys will see in the near future, most likely. So, as well as some other random stuff that I did end up with. Even this desk was at that house that this computer is sitting on. Probably the only reason I'm able to fit a desk and a bookshelf and a bed and a dresser and have my closet open in this little room is that I got this smaller desk from there, and I did a weird Jenga Tetris thing with it in the corner. Someone's asking if I'm totally fine from COVID. I still have it a little bit. I'm noticing it right now in my voice a little bit just because I've been talking for like 2 hours, and I felt a little tired still today, but I think it's getting a little better each day. I don't think I'm noticing like the long COVID type thing yet in terms of each day is a little better than the last. Um, but I'm not 100% better feeling yet, but I am testing negative now at least. So um, now I'm going to be able to start filming again on upcoming days later this week. And I have been filming with some like family here and by myself, just trying to set up the camera myself and stuff for a lot of the recent videos, not the main channel ones. But I'm running out of main channel ones that were pre-filmed, and so I need to film a new one really soon once I drop this base -10 one. So just in time that I can start refilming for the main channel like later this week, because none of my cameramen would want to come over while I had COVID. I mean, told them not to. So now I'll be able to restart filming for the main channel. Someone's saying they like the beard, which who knows how long or it'll go or stay. I'm pretty careless about my hair, facial hair or hair. So usually it gets kind of long and then I cut it kind of short just for convenience to let it regrow and not have to get a haircut that long. And I do the same thing with shaving. And I usually shave it. Recently I've just been using this like buzzy device thing that just like does it without needing to like use an actual little razor, like a more buzzy thing that's easier to do. And that leaves it pretty close to nothing. So like I prefer it when it has a little bit there. So, but there will usually be like random transitional periods where it's like a little longer than I'd normally have it, like maybe now. And then I'll wait a while and then shave it to a little shorter than it would normally be just because it's easier. And I kind of do the same thing with my hair. Now, right now, I have more roles I need to look a little normal in for society, like certain, like teaching private students and various things in life that I'm probably not going to let my hair or beard get too crazy. But if I can ever make enough money from combo class that this is just like my full-time job, and I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to continue that onward and not like worry about fitting in with society and I can just make my videos all day, I might get a haircut and shave just once a grade or like once a year-ish amount of time. And so then we would get like, I would go practically bald practically because I'll have a whole year for it to go out and it'll get super long. So we'll see how carried away I might get with that in the future. I've never really been one to like dye my hair or get body modifications, but I've always, had fun letting my hair get kind of comically long and then cutting it relatively short and just rinse and repeat. So someone wants to do some maths, and unfortunately, I'm probably not going to bust out much more math in this stream. So if you need more math, just watch whatever videos you haven't seen on the main channel or on this channel or whatever. But because I'm going to wrap up the stream really soon. But I was going to see if I had one or two more. One or two. I already said one before. If I had anything else cool to show you guys about the room, and I guess it should be the clock I mentioned. So this is the clock my grandpa was doing from a kid. There you go. Very clocky. So that one's living in here right now because I didn't want it to be out in any of the rains, and just the general outside chaos I felt like was already taking a toll on it. So at risk of taking too much of a toll, oh man, I got it caught in my chair. At risk of taking too much of a toll on it, I brought it inside because it was more of a memento clock. Oh man, why did it really get caught? Okay. What else do we have here? We also have a bunch of backup whiteboard markers. We have more books, and we have an Etch-a-Sketch. You guys remember these? These are pretty fun. I've been thinking about how to turn this into a good episode, but it's not It's not as good as a whiteboard for drawing equations. So I don't think anytime soon I'm going to switch from the Etch-a-Sketch type of guy on the social media to, I mean, from the whiteboard guy on all the shorts feeds to the Etch-a-Sketch guy. I don't think that's going to be happening soon because it's going to be pretty hard to write equations on here. You need like one line. You need to keep it rolling kind of. But it's still fun to doodle on these things. So I guess the last thing we can look at together is what it looks like inside this candle thing that I brought inside. So the outside got a little scorched, and the inside now is a candle basically because it just melted in there. So let me see if I can take out the waxy bit on the inside. It's like this whole shell kind of. I broke off a little bit. Whoa, this one kind of got decapitated like it before too, where there's the wick on top. And then there's like this little chopped off bit. And I'll put it back in and let it melt in later because it actually was looking pretty cool in here. And I feel like I have a good potential maybe to stick like a wood chip or something in there as a new wick and to let all that wax keep causing my next candle to go by making a new wick for it. So maybe we'll see if that works. All right, so I do think I'm gonna head out now so I can eat some dinner and stuff. And as usual, work on finding some random fun math stuff to include in tomorrow's videos. I mean, I have a billion notes already of stuff I want to put in videos. So usually what I discover gets on a long list and isn't even in a video for a while. So sometimes you'll notice me rant about some math stuff on stream and then see it in a video later down the line. But that's kind of on purpose because then I have more time to think about topics and digest them and see what context I want to say them in, what other relationships or combos I may want to point out about them. So thank you to anyone left here. It's been a crazy long stream. And remember that watching any of the old streams back after the fact or watching any non-short videos on this channel does really help right now for getting it in the partner program, like the main channel is, but they don't count the shorts that way. And any type of commenting on the video always helps push them to more people. So I appreciate all the support. I guess I'll catch a few more of you in Discord possibly because people seem curious about that link. There's also the subreddit that I put in the description of the last video. In the last stream, I'll put it in this description later at some point too. For if anyone uses Reddit, we need to get more posts going on there, and then we'll get that place lively like the Discord is too. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, any aliens or simulation programmers or whatever. Thank you to the nature that we're not really observing as much, but that makes me want to paint my walls lizard green. And of course, thank you to all of my magnificent combo lords out there, which are you guys. All right, I'll catch you in the next stream, probably sometime tomorrow, but if not a stream tomorrow, there'll definitely be some sort of video or another.